Welcome, Chantilly, and welcome, Nasheed, back to another episode of our Rower Data Leader Series podcast. We're really happy to have our special guest, Chantilly, with us today. And so I wanted to start with you, Chantilly. Let's start with your journey. What first pulled you into the world of data, and how has that evolved over the years?
So my journey with data started about 15 years ago. I was a student at Howard University majoring in information systems, and we had an assignment around analyzing data. It was a movie set data, and our professor said, find a tool that could help you analyze this data. Now, up until that point, the only tool that I knew how to use was Excel. That was the only thing that our course focused on. But the idea was that our professor wanted us to go out and find some type of analytical tool that could analyze millions and millions of data. So I actually ran into Tableau that night when I had to do my assignment, and I was able to take this data set, plug it into Tableau, and quickly analyze that data, generate some insight, and do the assignment that I had presented to the class the next day, and actually came out with a great grade on it. So I decided that, I was so intrigued by Tableau and its ability to answer questions rather quickly with data. I decided that I wanted to learn more about that tool. At the time, I was also interning with Johnson and Johnson, and they were looking for a Tableau subject matter expert. So I deemed myself that expert, and I was able to get a lot of real world and on the job experience pretty quickly on. So over the course of the 15 years, I've worked for Johnson and Johnson. I've worked for Comcast. I've worked within the consulting space. I've worked within the contracting space, helping individuals analyze and understand their data.
You've held leadership roles and you've been recognized for multiple times as a Tableau visionary. And what do these milestones mean to you personally?
For me, becoming a Tableau visionary was something that I set out to do a few years ago. So the backstory on that was I was interviewing for a role at Comcast, and it was down to two candidates, me and another candidate. And that candidate actually got the position over me because they held that title of, it was called a Tableau Zen Master at the time, which is now known as a Tableau Visionary. So I decided that from that point forward that this title actually meant something in the community and to other employers. So I wanted to hold that title myself. So I found out ways that you could receive the title, and a lot of it had to do with giving back to the community and giving back to users in some way. And I decided that my way of giving back was going to be to start my own nonprofit organization called Millennials in Data, to teach other students and young professionals how to incorporate data analytics and data literacy into their day to day. So 5 years later, after starting Millennials in Data, I was inducted into the as a Tableau visionary, and then a few more years after that, I was inducted as a Tableau visionary Hall of Famer. So just holding the title really meant a lot over the course of my journey.
And to bring Nasheed in, I know you've been a part of Tableau user group for well over a decade now, and you've had your fair share of appearances at Tableau events and probably been an ambassador as well. And so, how does that feel on your end, Nasheed?
I think it's phenomenal, and I will say I was at in San Diego when Chantilly was awarded the Tableau Hall of Fame, Tableau Visionary Hall of Fame award, which was pretty awesome. And I will say, just watching the journey from afar, I've always admired her skill set and the work that she's done. And the funny thing is, right, when I joined the world of data, however many years ago, I was always looking for others, who have a similar type of approach to the work. And I saw that, hey, I was like, there's someone who's like rising through the ranks and really taking the Tableau world by storm. And the irony of it is, I went to Howard for, at the beginning of my college career. And so I was like, okay, there's a Howard connection. So I always wanted to have the conversation. So I'm glad we're able to connect and learn more about what it took behind, what people see as the accolades and everything else. But what they don't see is the long nights, the work that goes into that. So I really want to acknowledge that.
I know throughout both of your careers, you guys are on the tail end of the new AI wave. Albeit, a lot of hype, some fear mongering, but there is definitely a catalyst of change happening. And when was the moment that both of you sort of realized that AI is really going to start reshaping the world of analytics? And so,
I think for me, it was while I was at Lovelytics. We had a data engineering, machine learning team specifically, and that was pretty much like my first intro into AI and data. And what I found was that we were working with a client who had a massive amount of data, and we were incorporating machine learning into it. And just the speed and the accuracy in which we could analyze that data, that's kind of what lit up that light bulb for me. It was like, okay, this is going to be a game changer. Later on down the years of how fast you can analyze your data, how much data you can analyze at one time, how much insight you could get out of it and present back to your end users. So for me, that was really like the changing point in my career.
Yeah,
What about
I
you, Miss
think
B?
one of the things that stood out to me is with all of the conversations around AI. I think many of those people who have been in this space for a while, they see it as an extension of what they've been trying to do. So I think it's an enabler, it's a new capability that kind of answers some of the hopes and aspirations of those of us who have been doing this work. So I think of it as an extension. Like for example, when you talk about AI, you're really talking about automating certain processes and then getting the insights that we used to spend a lot of time, trying to discover on our own. It accelerates that process so the business can get the value more quickly. The more we push forward into this world, the more I start to realize that many companies need help with the fundamentals so that they can realize the value. Essentially, you mentioned a company that was, it sounds like more mature in their journey. So they're able to kind of take advantage of that. And those companies are exciting to work with. There are many companies, whether they're large or medium sized or small, who are still early in the journey. So how do you kind of navigate that, right? When you have an idea of what is possible, you come in with some ideas saying, okay, here's where I've seen organizations go. How do you guide organizations through that transformation?
I think it goes back to like understanding their business need and the value that AI and advanced analytics could add to their business. I think with a lot of these organizations, really early on, the biggest challenge that I see is that their data is all over the place. There are so many teams that have so many silos of data on their own. And I think the first thing is to come in and understand the business need for the organization, understand how each of those teams are organizing or looking at their data, and then show them use cases where, as you have mentioned, like AI can really help speed up that analytical process. It could help answer business questions a lot faster. It could save the company a lot of time and a lot of dollars. Yeah, so that's how I see bringing it all together.
Where do you see the opportunities in the future? I know, Bilal, you mentioned like there's some fear mongering, there's some conversations around AI is going to come and do these things. I, I want you to kind of talk a little bit about what you see as a future state and where the opportunities, because within all of that, there are always opportunities for those of us who are prepared for them.
I think the opportunity is going to be around the soft skill actually for a lot of individuals. I don't think AI is going to replace necessarily what we can do. It's going to enhance more so what we can do. I think as humans, we're not going to ever be as fast as a machine that can analyze data, but where we're going to be able to step in is to really understand like the bias that might be introduced. The machine can't understand that. We're going to be able to understand our end users needs and see, does this analysis actually provide the insight that the business is looking for. We're going to be able to step up our critical thinking skills and understanding the output of what the machine has given us. So I see AI really complementing the skills of your everyday data analyst rather than like taking away some of those skills or replacing them.
I, I agree.
and while we're on the topic of AI, what excites both of you the most about the direction we're heading with AI and analytics? And what are some of the things that concern you as well? Maybe we can start with Nasheed.
The thing that excites me the most, I think, is the opportunity to build new tools on top of the tools that we have. So the opportunity to extend the capabilities. That's one of the things Chantilly talked about her journey at Tableau briefly. One of the things that we as Tableau developers have seen, which I think guides our thinking in many ways, is the product itself evolved to include new features, new capabilities. which gives us a hint at what the future state or the desired future state was for many of us who are aiming to kind of see that tool evolve. I think AI comes in and now unlocks new capabilities there. So I'll say that. And in terms of where, I forget the second part of your question, to be honest. So that's really what
Uh,
is top of
yeah,
mind.
the things that concern you about AI.
I see that. And the things that concern me, I think, are companies overlooking the need for certain soft skills and getting the foundation right. And I think people are starting to recognize that as being important. So I think the more people recognize that, I think we'll navigate it more effectively.
I think for
What
me,
do you think,
it's
Chantilly?
the accessibility. I think it's the accessibility of it. I think AI is becoming a little bit more and more intuitive for your everyday user. So I do think that teams that may not have been as data driven before, I do see AI coming in and providing them kind of with that data culture that they might have been missing. But then on the flip side of that, there is a risk of kind of just taking the data as is or the output that is provided as is and taking it for face value. So I do think at the same time, yes, it's going to provide a lot of these organizations with that data driven culture, have better and quicker insights. But we also have to pair that with understanding what's coming out of the model or what's coming out as the output, using those critical thinking skills, increasing data literacy so individuals know exactly like what they're looking at, and also understanding like the ethics and bias behind all of it.
No, that's great. And on that topic, I'm sure you guys have been in a lot of rooms with stakeholders, C-level execs, and there seems to be a lot of pressure. This idea that we need to do something with AI, even if they're not sure. And I know at Rower we have our AI audit, AI readiness audit that helps leaders work through how to approach AI. But what would you like to add, Chantilly, on that note? That this overwhelming pressure that we need to stay on top of the tide and we have to do some revolutionary thing with AI, and leaders feeling a little bit perplexed on how to implement a strategy.
I think from a leader standpoint, it kind of goes back to what are the business goals and how can we use AI tools to accelerate those business goals or to help those business goals. So it could be whether it's streamlining business, customer improvement, like keep those business goals in mind when looking for a tool or AI tool to be adopted into the organization. And then I also think it doesn't hurt to like start small within your organization so we don't have to they don't have to do like a massive rollout across all the teams or the entire organization. Maybe taking one business goal for one quarter, adopting a tool, testing it small and seeing how does this tool complement our organization and the goals that we're trying to meet.
And Nasheed, what could you say for exec leaders in regards to AI readiness and preparation?
I think Chantilly hit the nail on the head. I wouldn't add much more to that.
On the note of leadership, what are qualities of, let's say, a good data leader within the space? What are things that you guys are noticing that maybe leaders might be overlooking or over investing in certain areas? What advice could you give to a data leader that's looking to up their game and take their company to the next level?
I think for me, a great leader is someone who understands the people, right? So, regardless of what tool your organization is focused on, regardless of what your organization is is aiming for, I think a great leader is a great people person, honestly. That empathy and that particular skill and understanding and managing your team is something that has always kept me at an organization. And when I was faced with challenging leaders, I think that's probably what took me away from the organization. So I say a great leader removes the tool out of the conversation and keeps their people at the forefront of it.
Yeah, and I think the purpose, they're very purpose driven. They make the purpose very clear to their team so that the people can align with what it is their aim is as a leader. I think that's what I've seen the best leaders do very well. They're clear about the purpose, they organize their people around that purpose, and they drive towards that.
The other thing we want to touch on is with the many tools and technologies that are constantly emerging, how do you filter between what's actually hype and what's actually useful? And what are some of the strategies or things you put into place to show companies and data leaders that this is actually what you should be focusing on?
I think Chantilly said it. It's not always about the tool. There's a whole host of tools, and there are new tools being created today. I think it starts with the business goals, what the aims are, and then the right tool for the right job. You know, if you need to use multiple tools across the organization, that may be the case. Certain departments prefer certain things, and that makes sense. Like marketing may prefer Looker because it connects to Google. You know, some people prefer Power BI over Tableau. Others are bringing in ThoughtSpot because of the natural language processing and the ability to kind of query your data through natural language. And then there are other bespoke tools that are being created by internal teams and otherwise. I think as long as it's all driving towards business goals and outcomes, the tool is not as important as, driving that change. That's how we think about it.
And for me, you pretty much hit it spot on, Nasheed. It's about understanding like the pain points that are in the business, and is there a tool out there that's new that can solve that? If there's a tool that the organization is already using that can solve that pain point for like a particular team or department, then I will go the route of using that tool. But if it's a new tool that can solve a pain point that existing tools cannot, then that's when I think that a new tool would be able to add real value.
Right. So Chantilly, what are some exciting things that you're working on these days?
For me, it's always like a new client with a new goal in mind, so a new problem to solve. I like to go to or navigate towards clients that have particular business needs, and I can use the skill set that I have to help them with those business needs. So I think that's always new and exciting. Like every few months or every few years, there's always a different client with a different problem, and how can I add value to their organization? So this time around, it's one client with another problem and helping them solve it.
For me, one of the things that's very exciting right now for us is the new framework that we're working with, which is a system of discipline agility. I think that is going to pay dividends for our clients and prospective clients when it comes to driving transformation. Because all of these initiatives that we're talking about, whether you're talking about delivering dashboards, reports, et cetera, analytics capabilities, it's really it's really fun to deliver it. It's tougher to drive the change and adoption from these tools. So having a framework that we're excited to roll out that has shown a lot of promise and has delivered results for organizations, I think is going to be what we're most excited about going forward because those things go hand in hand, establishing a process for doing these things repeatedly, understanding that these efforts are really transformation efforts. You know, when we're talking about analytics, AI, et cetera, is really it goes beyond building the tool, using certain software. It's really how do you get the behavior in the organization to change, and that, to Chantilly's point earlier, is a people challenge. So connecting with those individuals who are going to utilize the tool, helping coach them around how to use it, how it's going to change their old way of working potentially, or enhance the old way of working. All of those things are going to be very exciting going forward. Thank you so much for taking the time. I appreciate you making the time to meet with us and have this conversation. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank y'all for having me. I'm really looking forward to see like how AI merges into our day to day lives and our day to day jobs. So thank you.